All right, you guys, so this is basically part two of putting your dictionary together. And so I just wanted to remind you where you can find the terms that you're needing. So you're going to be doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 pages or 8 words. That means that those words will be 16 pages. Remember, this is a 2-page spread. So we've already done kerning. So what I thought we would do is I would do a real quick refresher on what kerning was, and then continue on down the line. So kerning, and I'm just going to leave it in this font, which is a serif. And you can see that, as you know, the space between the K and the E usually aren't very well kerned. So what we would want for this example is we would want to show one that's unchanged and one that's changed. And so, you know, and you could label anything really. So remember, kerning is between 2 pairs, and so I'm going to track this in. And if I come in here, I'm going to be able to track it in right here. So I'm going to pull it in slowly, or I can use this to pull it in, and we'll see how that looks any further. And I think it's going to get too tight, and then we're going to look through and see where we also need to kern, and so we're going to tighten the N and the G up, and now this N and I look like they could be fixed. So what I would do in terms of showing people what that meant is right here I would indicate with a line. And I'm going to do a stroke. InDesign is exactly like Illustrator. I'm going to do a 0.5. And you can see that I can have my start arrow, and I can have this. All those are exactly the same. I'm actually going to bring this arrow down a little bit. And then, oops, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself a little tag and say, let's see how much they was pulled in. So K, E, pair, tracked in, -40. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to use the same font that I'm using over here, which is Frutiger. I'm going to make it bold, and I'm going to make it 9 point, and I'm going to make it black. It still actually feels pretty big. I'm going to make that 8 point. And then I'm going to take this and rotate it and put it here. Actually, I think I'm just going to grab this, and then we can rotate this or flip it by coming up, and they do it somewhere, you know, different in it's different than in Illustrator, and I always forget where they put it. So I can go to help and say reflect. They don't call it reflect. That's part of it. Object. Let's look at transform. Ah, here it is. All right, so we're going to do a flip horizontal. And actually, I'm going to do flip vertical. Those are always the opposite of what I think. So we're going to flip vertically, and then we're going to rotate that 90 degrees. So that it's pointing here, and then we can bring this down and we say, let's go look and see how much we kerned those. So those were tracked in. Oh, that was tracked in a -30. So we'll go ahead and change that to 3, and then do NG. And then we do have, you know, other things that we fixed, but I don't know that we have to like always do it. And so the last thing I want to do is say original. And I'm going to do that in Fruitiger. And then I'm going to move all of this down a little bit. Actually, quite a bit. I think I'm going to move everything down through the lines up here. Oops, I duplicated it too. I just want it to come down. So we're going to leave it right there, and then I'm going to pull this down a little bit. And then we're going to say kerned. And I think the other way I'm going to make sure that people know that this is important is I'm going to add kind of a heavy element. I'm going to do a black box. I'm going to make that white type. And then I'm going to send this object to arrange, send to back. I'm going to bring that down. And we're going to have this box end at the same spot. So I'm going to do the same thing right here. And again, I'm going to select that text. I'm going to make it white. I'm going to go to Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. Oop. Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. Oh, I actually made the background white and not the text. Right, so we'll make the text white. And so I've decided I want to align this right up here. And this is kind of changing the way I'm seeing this. So I'm actually going to go back into my master page and make a change because I want to bring this line in for these guys. So I'm going to come up here, I'm going to go back into those master pages, and I'm going to give myself that box, and I'm going to connect it right there, which means a couple of things. Number one, I'm going to have to drop that paragraph down. Number two, I'm going to select that type and make it white. And I'm going to do Object, Arrange. We're going to click that box and do Object, Arrange, Send to Back. And then remember I had that gray background, so I'm going to do object arrange, send to back again, and then we'll have that text. And then I'm going to bring this guy down. And then I have this, oops, personal statement. So I'm going to make that a little bit larger. And I actually want these guys to end at the same spot. So I'm going to make that a little bit larger. And then I'm going to make this text here white. So the moral of this story is that, you know, sometimes your designs change given what you're doing. They might evolve, and so we can go back into this master page and make changes. So now if you go back in, and you can see that those changes have been made, and they've happened on every page, right? So we're starting up here. Now one of the things that I want is I want to have these bars always be the same size. So I'm going to hit Command Shift and unlock that so that I can copy that over to this because I want those elements to maintain a consistency. So we're done with, oops, I have to do this. So now we're off onto page 2. So we've got kerning, we'll do tracking. So we're going to grab all of this stuff because I find very often I need to use some of the same stuff on the next page. So it's always great to have brought it over so that we can use some of that stuff that we've already got going. So over here, we're going to unlock this so that you can see that I can't move anything, but if I click that, and that's Command Shift and click, then I can do tracking. And then again, same thing, I can't move this, but if I do Command Shift click, I can turn that into a T. So remember, one of the things that I want to have happen is I want this letter to kind of bounce around. I'm going to make this maybe 250. So that's bigger than that box is going to allow it. So I'm going to open it up. And so I want to rotate it so it's, you know, doing something a little bit different. And I'm going to drop it down here. Remember, you know, we've talked about kind of keeping the eye amused. And so we would adjust the statement for tracking. I have the website that I was using still up. And so if I come down to tracking, nope, this isn't the one that I want. Typographic dictionary, not typography. This is it. So if I come here to T, and find tracking a little bit longer, we're going to copy that. And again, you're going to create your personal statement, and you will find all kinds of things in that that short demo that I did on tracking. I do need to adjust this, so I'm going to unlock these two elements, and I'm going to drop them down so that we have the right amount of space. I'm going to actually take my T down a little bit. Then move it over. And I'm going to do object, arrange, send to back. The dog is actually over here snoring while I'm doing this. All right, so we have this part taken care of. Now we have to come over here. We have to adjust kerning. So Command-Shift-Click. Tracking. So tracking original, which works for us. But this time, we're not going to need to do any of this. We're going to put tracking in, and we're actually going to change that, but we're actually going to do a couple of examples of tracking. So I'm actually going to move this up because we're going to need to, and I'm going to align that black line right there. So we're going to have two more. So for tracking, remember that is pulling in and out the space between letters within a word. So same use up here. I'm going to do this tracked in. Actually, I'm going to track it out 50, and I'm going to track it out 100. Then we'll come up here, tracking 100. Oops, we ran out of space here, so we'll go ahead and open that up. Tracked out 100. Oh, actually, this was 50 points. And we can just put 50 PT, and then we'll do the same thing up here and copy it. And then we'll just change that 50 to 100. And then this is going to be tracked in. Now, the only reason why I had only one example of tracking in is because it's very uncommon. I'm going to put negative here. Or actually positive. It was tracked out, so it's a positive. It's very uncommon to track something in. So I'm going to grab this and I'm going to track it in 50. And do you see how the serifs run in? That's one of the reasons why you don't. And so if you wanted to add another element and say, this is why you don't track things in, that's another option. So we are on to leading. So leading is interesting. That's the lines between type. So we're going to have to do all of our changes. First, we're going to come up here and make this an L. And I'm going to rotate the L up because remember, we're doing something kind of fun every time. So I'm going to have this L hanging off the edge. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click this. And I'm going to change that to leading. And then we have our personal statement. Remember, you don't have to write these, but I am going to go find leading here. And so I'm going to hit this, go back down to leading right there. So I'm going to grab that. Now you will want to change your personal statement. I will be looking for your changes in personal statements. This has to be changed. So we're going to go ahead and do leading. Now, leading's a little bit different, but we do want some of those things from this. So we're going to go ahead and grab these because they're going to make our life easier. and we'll paste them on our leading spread. And we'll drop that right there. Now we're going to need to give ourselves space because we're actually going to need a couple of different examples. So we're going to get rid of this because we do need paragraphs. So I'm going to use some of this lorem ipsum to do that. So I'm going to, and you could use any text that you want as long as it makes sense. So this is going to be original leading. And you can see that we need to open that up a little bit. And then I'm actually going to bring these up a little bit. And then I will use that same paragraph. And so I'm going to add leading. So I'm going to come up here and you can see that this is 2.8 type at 9 point type. And so we could come up here and say 10.8 leading. But we're going to leave it alone. We could also just say normal leading. Let's do that. Let's here do 14-point leading. And then we're going to duplicate this. Make sure the same alignment here and here are right. And then we're going to select that text. And we're going to come up here and drop that down to 14-point leading. Now we're going to have a third example since we have enough space. So we're going to grab this and this. Just do a drag select. And we'll drag that down. And then we'll do, let's see what looks good. We'll do 18-point leading. Now remember, refer back to that original demo that I did on each of these terms to maybe come up with your personal statement for this. All right, so we want to move on to font family, and we are going to use my favorite font for our font family, and we're designing in it. So we're going to do font family. We're going to go to our website and find font family. Look at that, they don't have font family. That's surprising. All right, so we're going to do define font family. Perfect. Font family is a set of fonts that have a common design. Font family, however, differs from each other. And so we're going to grab all the way up to there and use that for a definition. This means that we're probably going to need to drop that personal statement down because this is a much longer definition. So we're going to grab that. Remember, we're going to unlock it by holding Command Shift and click, and then Command Shift and click. And then we're going to drag all of that down. And then we actually have to send this back. Arrange, send to, back. Now, in terms of our font family, we probably want to go ahead and grab this, because there's going to be a lot of these if we use Frutiger, and we're going to have to go much smaller so we can get everybody down in. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. And we're going to make those much smaller. We're going to make those body copy. And then we're going to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. So this is going to be our first version of Frutiger. Let's go ahead. We might not be able to get all of Frutiger on here. So our first Frutiger is Frutiger 45 light. So we're going to make that, and then we're going to come up here into the title and put that as Frutiger 45 light. Now, I don't think I'm going to try to do all of Frutiger, because I think there's about 11 versions of it. So now that I have that set, I'm actually going to delete these, because we're going to be using this over and over again. The dog is just snoring away over here. So the next one is going to be, we're going to select it, is going to be Roman 55. So we're going to do 55 Roman. Roman usually means that that is body copy size. And so we're going to duplicate that, work with the spacing, and the next one is going to be Frutiger 65 bold. So font families are really wonderful because they allow you to have consistency and yet variety in terms of the way you make a message. And then, as you can see, Frutiger has, more than, so the next one I think is Frutiger 75 black. But you can see that each of these has italics, and then there's also even a condensed. So I'm going to make this 75, and then I'm going to choose this and make this 75. And so the next one is, I think, 85. Nope. We're going to do, it's 95 black. And this is actually black, not gold. Black. We should probably capitalize this. And we should capitalize this. And we should capitalize this. Alright, so this is 95. And this is, I believe, ultra bold. So let's go ahead and select that. It's ultra black. Ultra black. Oops. And we have to pull that box a little bit more open. And those are going to be all the examples that we do. I am going to drop this down and have Just come down a little bit so you can see that, oops, missed one. We're having those things move around, and that's not a problem. But we're very clearly labeling our examples. So let's come up here and do justified, flush left, flush right. And we actually can use this guy up here to do that. So it's nice to have that. So we're going to go ahead and copy that into this guy. And I am going to have this change. This is going to be, and this is unfortunately going to be our longest, justified type. And so actually one of the things that we should do is we're really in this one doing three separate terms, so we're going to really need to move these guys down a little bit because we're going to need to make room for three different terms. So we're going to move this one down because it would not make sense to do this. And let's go ahead and get justified in our dictionary. And we'll move down and go to J. And we're justified. Surprising. We will just do define justified type. All right. It's not a great short. Let's do typographic alignment because, oh, look, we found justified. So we'll go ahead and grab that. And drop it right there. And capitalize that. And then we're going to need to duplicate this so that we can do this. This might get a little bit tight. So we're going to do flush left. Left type. And then we already have our definition right here. And it is a short one. Actually, we're going to capitalize that. I'm going to get rid of this as well because it's not actually anything we need. So we're going to grab this and move it up a little bit. I'm going to close this box down. Oops. I'm going to close this box down. I distorted it. You have to be careful about not distorting your text. And then we're going to grab that and drop that. And you can see that it's a pretty busy page. So we have our flush right. And we'll grab that. And drop that in. And this worked out pretty well for us. I think the alignment's over here. All right, so we're going to do flush left. Type. And then we're going to do justified here. Justified. Type, and then we're going to do flush right. Now, remember, we tracked these out, so the first thing I'm going to do is come up here and do auto so that they're all back to the way they should be. Which means that I'm probably going to need to adjust how far this works. Close this down a little bit. Oops. Grab all of these and move them up a little bit. All right, so flush left means that it is aligned. It is aligned on a straight line on your left. Justified means that I'm coming up here and it will be straight on both sides. Oops. For some reason it's not doing that, probably because it had that. Which is, it had hard returns there, and then I can do flush right, and that is that it's at a straight line on the right side. So there's 3 more pages left to go, and they're a little bit easier. So we've already done this page, so we're going to move down, and this is going to be visual hierarchy. So we're going to come up here and we're going to click this, and this is going to be a V. We're going to make it slightly bigger. And then we're going to rotate it. I'm kind of having it point there. I'm going to come in and change this to visual. Oops. We're going to hold down Command Shift and unlock that. We're going to change this to visual hierarchy. We're going to leave that as the personal statement, but we're going to go in and see if our dictionary we've been using has visual hierarchy. Nope. So we'll do a search for define visual hierarchy. And remember, this is the levels of importance. What is visual hierarchy commonly referred to? So we're going to just grab that. Now that means it was a longer statement, so we're going to hit Command Shift and click and drop this down. Careful of our spacing. We're going to hit Object, Arrange, Send to Back. Now, we have a really great example of kind of visual hierarchy. This is first, this is second, and this is third. So what I want you to do is maybe consider creating a little thing that explains the visual hierarchy of a piece. So let's do images for visual hierarchy. And so this is a really great example of visual hierarchy. So maybe you recreate that. Now, I'm not going to take the time to recreate this because this is a demo, but we're going to use it. I'm going to go ahead and drop it in here, and I'm going to scale it. Now, it's obviously not at a size that works for what we're doing, but we're going to pretend. Now, I'm actually going to close down this and just use this one part as our example. And then remember, I don't know if we've been doing this, but we're going to do visual hierarchy. Visual. Probably spelled that wrong. Remember, we want it to stay in that size, so I'm going to scale that down. So it looks like it's 21.5 to get it right to that line. No, we haven't been doing that, I think. Oh, you know what? I wanted it to end there. So this is font family. So we didn't change this, so we'll go ahead and fix that. Font family. Font family. So we're going to close this down so that it ends right here. This is example of, we're going to just say type alignment. Type alignment. Oops. And so we're going to grab that and we're going to close it down so that it fits in that area. And then we have leading, we have tracking, which needs to come down a little bit because it's over the line. So we're going to and then kerning is where it needs to be. So lots and lots of little details that you have to take into account. But you would want to do a visual example. I'm just trying to speed this up for us. We have rag. So let's go ahead and change our K to rag, and then we'll come over here and do rag. We're going to pretend we changed this. We're going to change this to rag. Rag. And then we need to actually make this larger. Now for rag, we need a paragraph. So we're going to grab these guys and reuse them. Now remember, we have to fix these and make them all normal. Oops. Now we only need an example of good rag and bad rag. So we're going to just need one of these. Oops. So we're going to get rid of this bottom one. And we're going to say bad rag. And we're going to say good rag. Now, this actually currently is actually set up to be bad rag because of the hard returns. But if we come, oops, I keep doing it wrong. if we actually don't have these hard returns, we have good rag. So good rag is this nice, even in and out, right? And so we're going to come over here and we're going to kind of draw. I'm going to hold down Shift so I get straight lines. And I'm going to give that a 1/2 point stroke. And then this is bad rag, right? And we're going to give it that same line, kind of indicating that edge. And now we have to do a description for each of these, explaining why one is good rag and one is bad rag. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself another paragraph. And this is going to be kind of description text, so I'm going to make it fairly small. And I'm going to start with the good rag. Good rag has an even consistency that is, that is no more than 2 or 3 characters. Difference in line length. Now, because I was typing that and couldn't see it, I'm pretty sure it's going to be terrible. So good rag, and we probably should do not as bad as I thought. It's still not great. I'm going to open this up just a little bit. And this is a great time where I might choose to do flush right, right? And I'm going to do Frutiger bold, and I'm actually going to make it 7 point. Because 7 point's still pretty readable. And I'm going to let it flush right there. And then this is going to be a little bit tight. And maybe one of the things I should do is go ahead and take that point away, and I'll have the description for this. Oops. Come up here. So I can have that right here. And actually, I'm going to have it align right on that L. Bad rag has a jagged back and forth that is more than 4 characters. Difference in the line above and below. Period. And we will imagine, I didn't spell some things wrong. But I don't want to go back and fix it because I don't want to take your time. So that is what an example for rag might look like. All right, we have one last thing. All right, so line length is kind of a tough one to explain. but we're going to give it a shot. We're going to grab all of this. So we're just going to grab this. And copy it over here. And fix this. Bad. 9. We'll come over here and change this to L again. Rotate it. And then we'll say good line length. All right, we'll pretend that we changed all of this because this is getting to be a rather long demo. So the way that you define line length, as you know from the other demos that you, oops, we've got to fix this too. And then we're going to shorten this because we know we want it to end right there. So line length, the way we determine whether something is has proper line length is we count every character. And remember, it's about between 35 and 65 characters. So we're going to do a really short line length. And so you can see that that's too short. We're having to return. And when you do this, you often have to hold your finger there to be able to, oh, we're going to actually make this bad and this good. I think I'm going to move this down so that the line's down here. And I'm just using the arrow key to bump this down. Sometimes it's easier to do it that way. So as you know what line length is from that explanation of those terms that you guys have. So those are, that's the end of our dictionary. I'm going to pick up one last time and we'll talk about how to put this together, but we will be doing that in class. Thank you.